Hi, this is Colin Levy. How are you? I thought it'd be cool to actually go through the process of doing some layout. Since that was one of my major responsibilities for Durian, I thought might be constructive to actually do a whole sequence basically with characters blocking, bringing in rigs, and animating basic blocking, and also working with camera switching and camera animation. So let's think of a scene that uses our assets. Basically, let's use Scintille, of course. How about the market scene and one of the guardians? Okay, so Scintille is trying to buy a piece of fruit from the guardian, who is just a vendor at the market. This is a scene that was never conceived. All right, so we've got Blender open. Let's just delete everything that's here. And I'm just going to go ahead and save this. So I'm going to save this in the place where we would normally save a scene, which is in the Pro directory, Scenes, and I'll just call this fake scene.blend. Beautiful. So now we're here. The reason I'm doing that is because we're about to link in some files, and it's important that we have our project saved so that the relative library links work. So let's link in first our character, Scintille. So I'm pressing Control-Alt-O, but you can also go File, Link, does the same thing. And I'm just going to navigate to our char directory, Pro Chars Scintille, and then I'm going to find the group that we specifically want. Do we want her, to have a backpack on? Sure, why not? No armor, sure, blah blah blah. Scintille winter, no. Scintille backpack should be good. So, as you can see here, she is fully rigged. I would actually like her without a coat, now that I think about it. X. I'm going to try backpack with a lowercase b. See what that does. Oh, very self-explanatory. Okay, so now we've got Scintille, but what if I want her in a different pose? Right now, we can't really do anything except rotate and scale. So what we need to do is bring in her rig. How do you do that? It's a special feature. Go into Object menu and say Make Proxy. And it asks you, what do you want to make proxy? The rig. So it's going to go into the Scintille.blend, take the rig, and make that proxy, which means the rig is now here, kind of in a local mode. You can't really go into edit mode can you? No. You can only go into pose mode. And it allows you to actually pose your characters, even though they're linked in. I'm going to go ahead and turn Simplify on because she's got hair and stuff that really slows down performance. And actually, why am I using the high resolution rig here, model? That's just a waste of resources. So I'm also going to link in Scintille Simple, and that's the proxy version that the animators are using. And as you'll see here, they are overlapping. But if we go into the rig and go into pose mode, which I'm going Control-Tab to do that, you'll see how the pose, or the armature, deforms both models. So what I'll do here is just delete Scintille Simple. Well, actually, I'll just delete Scintille Backpack. But just because we're here, I'll show you how you can very easily switch between the two models. You can select it, go into the Objects tab, go down to Duplication, and under Group, change it to Scintille Backpack. And the animation and everything you have should remain the same. So, going to go back to Scintille Simple. So here we go. We've got a character. Great. Step 1 complete. Now we need to put her in her environment. So thankfully, Zunka and Pablo have already done this for us. So again, Control-Alt-O, and I'm going to navigate to the M's directory. M City. Chicken Run. Yes. So Chicken Run is actually the name of the market. So gonna go into the group. Holy smokes, you have a lot of choices. Ground, well, we want more than the ground. Chicken Run proxy, we want a little more detail because I want to know, I want to place her right in front of a particular stand. So I'm just going to say, oh geez, Chicken Run. That's generic. Hopefully it'll be what I want. Link / append from library. Wait as Blender thinks. Okay, what is going on? Alright, I'm going to clear the origin, clear its location. Alright, it's already there. So, wow, look at this. We've got this great scene here, and I have no idea where Scintilla is. Probably at the origin. Okay. So let's just say that I'm going to fly around, because maybe it's a little easier to navigate. I want her to stand right in front of this little guy. We'll put... Okay. I'm bad at navigating around. Alright, I'm going to just stick... no, okay. She'll stand right here, and our guardian guy will be, I don't know, close by. So where's Sintel? Right here. Going to grab her, pose mode. I want her location transformations to be at 0, 0, 0. So I'm not going to take the whole object and move it around. That causes problems. Instead, I'm going to go into pose mode and then put her where I want her to be. Alright, so she's standing relatively, you know, close to those little barrels. Now, let's just say that, you know, for layout sake, you don't really need to populate this barrel with stuff, but because we have the option, I'm just going to place a 3D cursor there, pop it up there, and maybe I'm in the mood for some vegetables, so I'm going to go in the envs prop directory. Let's see, props, city, fruits. We don't have a vegetables. Fruits will have to do. And then, I don't want apples. I hate apples. Market props. Group. Aha. Fish. Cucumber. That's a vegetable. Pumpkin. Squashes. Okay. Just going to bring all of those guys. Anything else? Veggie groups. Perfect. In here. And I got exactly one of them. Is that correct? Alright, let's see if I can add group instance. Veg group. Interesting. So, for some reason they didn't all pop. Whoa. But they have been linked in. So if I go to Shift A, group instance, I can then sort of look through what I've already linked in and just, yep, add different things. What else? I'm going to get a cucumber basket. Beautiful. Alright, so now we have Sintel standing in front of these barrels. Let's get rid of that. I don't like that. And she wants to order, you know, these cucumbers or this pumpkin. But we don't have anything for her. I mean, right now she could just steal it and no one would know. We need a vendor. So let's go into the chars directory again and bring in a vendor. Now, we have actually a lot of options. We could bring in a guardian, one of the guardians that we didn't end up using. Could do that. We could even bring in the hyena. She could be buying it from the hyena. But let's bring in Prug, because Prug is fun. So, Ishtarian Prug. Go into group, Prug, and Prug is dancing on the barrels. Okay, we'll place him behind. And to constrain, I know he's basically on the ground now because he's intersecting. And I'm going to hit G and then constrain with Shift Z so that I can push him back in space without having to be in an orthographic view. Now I'm going to rotate him. And by hitting Z, I can constrain his rotation as well. Actually, I just sort of contradicted myself. because now you see in the transformations that he's not at 0, 0, 0. That is bad. Bad Colin. Alright. 0, 0, 0. Good. Now where is he? He's right there. It's exactly where I want him. Maybe he's taking a bath. Okay. Oh, man. So we're going to make proxy here, and then bring in the rig. Woman A rig. I don't know, I'm fine. Okay, for some reason, the rig in Prug's file is called Woman A rig, which for some reason I think is hilarious. Okay. So, now we've got a problem. Prug's root bone is nowhere to be seen, so I can't even move him. This is because the rig layer has disappeared. That's an issue. So, let me see. Where is it? I'm going to have to go into the armature little setting here, and I happen to know that that bone is on the fourth to last. See how it toggles on and off? It's on the fourth to last layer. Probably pretty handy to know that. So now, just going to move him up and across and place him. All this stuff is just basic setup, scene setup, but it takes a long time actually. And once your characters are there, you can actually start getting work done. So now we've got these characters emulating each other. Maybe they're doing yoga, but we prefer them in a more natural pose. So I'm going to just start posing them. Let's have her looking sort of inquisitively. She can maybe have her her hand on her chin, in decision-making mode. She doesn't have much money, so she's got to make these decisions really carefully. We do have a lot of extra bones showing up here, if you can see. We don't need all those. In fact, there's some bones that I want to access which are not there. So you'll notice if you explore any of the animation scenes that if you select Sintel's armature, usually on the right-hand column, you have these really handy rig buttons, which allow you to show or hide various bone groups or control groups. And these are not here right now. Why is that? Well, turns out you have to link in a script separately, run it, and then it'll be part of the scene. So I'll show you what this is. I'm going to save this first. Go back to linking, Control-Alt-O. Go back to Sintel. And then in the text panel, you'll see Sintel Rig Props. So for each of the characters, Nathan has set it up so that there's basically a Python script that runs on load, which basically adds this functionality in the properties view. So I'm just going to link this, and you will see that it doesn't actually show up. It doesn't do anything. This first time, I'm going to split the view. You have to actually run it. So we'll go to a text view, text editor, open up this. A lot of awesome Python, which I don't understand, and I'll just say run. Huh. File. Well, see, when this happens, I get Campbell. So I'm just going to log on to IRC and see if he's online. He is online. Sorry for the detour. So it looks like although Campbell's on, he's not responding, and I don't know what to do. So I'm going to just hide this, go back to Blender, hit run script a few times, hope that it starts to work. Okay, it's not going. Look in the console for now. So, I don't know. But basically what that nice UI thing did is a handy shortcut for actually what these buttons do. So I could just go here, and I want those all those interior things to go away. Go away, no idea what these are doing. Okay, so that got rid of those. And I want finger controls. Don't want them straight. Here we go. So it's not nearly as nice. They're not labeled like they were here. No worries though, we can continue our work. I will complain to Campbell when he's back. So, here we go. I'm just going to continue where I left off. I'm going to border select these fingers, rotate them, Actually, I prefer to use IK. Now, IK switching is also a beautiful property that Nathan had in his lower properties thing here. Unfortunately, that's also not handy anymore, but I can still go to this guy and turn the... Okay. God damn it. I am less comfortable with Blender than I really should be after all this time. But basically, I have found the layer on which the IK hand is, and I've already forgotten. Okay. So this layer is the left-hand IK controller. The reason it looks like this, all geometric and stuff, is because of Simplify. If I put this back to where to 2 or whatever, it's nice and smooth. It's beautiful. And if you select this controller in the Properties panel, you will see IK. So in this case, I just felt like it's cumbersome to control. It's actually, FK is great for animation because you get nice arcs for free, but for layout, you're just doing a single pose to convey something really quickly. So in this case, IK is, I was just generally using IK because the animators are going to start over from scratch anyway. And now I want to get rid of this guy. So, alright, I guessed it right. For this arm, so I'm going to repose that. Still a lot of extra bones that I completely do not need. Alright. Ba-ba-ba-da-da. And her elbow is pointed toward the sky. I'm going to lower that with the pole target. I wonder what I can get. What can I afford? And I'm just going to move her a little bit closer. I hate trackball rotation. I don't know why I'm using it. Turntable is so much better. Alright, so this is also FK. I'm going to do the same thing. If I can just find... if I could just find the... there we go. The IK layer. Now get rid of the other layer. There we go. Beautiful. I'm learning more about Nathan's work methodology here. How he organizes his layers. And here's the pole target again. I also like to turn off view relationships over here, display relationship lines, because I find them kind of distracting and unnecessary. So, see the difference. Gonna try to figure out what layer these green and yellow bones are because they're completely not supposed to be viewing. It's more of the... Okay, good. Okay. I'm all set. Perfect. So we've got Sintel here in the pose that's more or less, tells the story of what's going on. Not really. Why don't I, while I'm here, just a little bit of a spread stance so it's not so perfect. Just gonna RZ to constrain. There we go. Alright, it's still incredibly bad. Awkward. But, okay. Now, I'm gonna have Prug. Let's shift our attention to him. And, you know what? Turntable, where are you? Thank you. so much better. And I'm going to have him, sort of like in the film, if you notice, he's just got his hands on his hips. So, this I can also do with IK, but I'm almost afraid of searching for that. Nope. I got it first try now. Perfect. Just going to turn the IK on for both of them. Bring it down here. Bring it down here. Sometimes when there's a lot of stuff in the way, first I should be using layers. So this environment, I'm just going to put on layer 2, even though that's not really how we did things. Actually, why don't I do this? I'm going to put Sintel on layer 1, she's already there. Prug on layer 2. I'm changing this with the M key. And then I'm going to switch to layer 2, move these guys to layer 6. So that'll keep things nice and organized. You can also use local view to be able to isolate your, you know, what you're working on. But anyway, we got this. I'm just not really caring too much. Remember, this is layout, not animation, so you have an excuse to do sucky work. Alright, so there we go. We've got this man, this very handsome man, sort of putting his hands on his hips. Don't you dare think about stealing my produce, young lady. Move these guys to layer 6 as well, just so it's with the environment. And viewing them together, you see we've got a scene set up. Yay, that took way too long. So now, what's going to happen in this scene? Sintel can maybe look over, so we'll start with the close-up of her sort of scanning the produce. Then we'll cut to a point of view shot, how about? So we'll just get what she's seeing. It's going to be a panning shot that roves across. Then, at the end of the shot, we'll have her hand come in. She'll take the, I don't know, basket or something, and we'll get a medium shot of Prug, and he'll slap her. So that's going to take a little bit of time, so bear with me. But I'm just going to set up a camera. Now, I wonder if this is actually going to work. Add tripod. Okay. No. Nathan made me a really fantastic camera rig. He built it into an operator. All it did was construct a very basic, series of relationships with empties and a camera to give me some controls. But we really don't need it in this case, and I never really used all of the features that it really had, so it was more because I thought it was cool. So I'm just going to add a camera, and here we go. It's pointed at the ground, perfect. And like I said, we'll start with close-up on Sintel. So I'm just going to rotate it into place. I'm constraining it along the x-axis with X. I'm just going to scale it down. That doesn't change a thing, just how it displays in 3D. I'm going to split the view so we can start looking at actually what the camera is seeing, and hitting numpad 0 to look through it. Now, before we get any further, I'm going to change the resolution. So what we were doing for Durian was 4096 by 1744, and at 50% that's 2K, with the right aspect ratio, which is 2.35 to 1. So again, I'm going to go here and dolly out with ZZ, that pushes it back locally on its own sort of normal, so it's like dollying straight back. So we can also, in this view, press Shift F to fly around, but until we use the scroll wheel, we're just panning. Once we start scrolling, then we're actually moving. But it's nice to reframe things. Also, tools that I was using is double R. So we've got the camera selected here, and I can hit double R, and as I move around, this is also a way, it's sort of like we're grabbing onto the background. It's mainly useful if you hit double R and then Shift, because that slows it down, and then it's more like, fine-tuning and composition. So in any case, we've got this. Scale it down a little bit more. And the camera doesn't really need to be animated here. But I'm going to be using the camera switching system that Blender has. So I want to link a camera to a marker so that the next camera I add will switch on a second marker. So I'm just going to go down to the timeline, hit M, and then since it's already selected and I'm already active, I'm going to hit Control B. And now you'll see the display on this marker has this little tiny dotted line, and that indicates that this is linked up to this camera. Perfect. So, in this view, I'm going to turn off. No, then she disappears. Okay, fine. Okay, perfect. I'm just going to have her looking, so I'm going to animate her actually. First keyframe of the scene. Going to start on frame 3, insert rotation with I, go to frame 30, and insert another keyframe. So, over the course of a little bit more than a second, she looks over. Okay? Perfect. Now I want to add another camera. So I'm actually, just because we're pretty close, I'm just going to duplicate this camera. Duplicate the camera, rotate it, and since we want it to be about her point of view, we'll just sort of situate it. Let me move this camera to the first layer, just so that we can sort of do that. And now let's add our second marker. So going to the timeline again, pressing M. Now I need to make this second camera active. Right now you can tell the active camera by looking at that triangle which appears over the camera. So here we've got this camera, and it's a solid triangle, and this is the second camera we just duplicated, which has a non-filled-in triangle. And so to make it active, I'm going to press Control numpad 0. So it's selected. Now we're going to jump into that camera, and interesting. So apparently it's per view, because in this view we've got the selected camera and it's active. And in this view, very curious. Maybe I'll just do it here too. Very interesting. Regardless, that shouldn't really actually cause a problem. But then go in here, Control B, and you can also do the same thing with View, Bind Camera to Markers. So now we've got two cameras, two markers, and if I scrub, you'll see how the camera actually changes. Beautiful. So now let's animate the second camera. I'm going to animate it right here in the view. Set a keyframe here, and since this should just be a pan that sort of replicates her viewport point, I'm going to just set 2 rotation keyframes. Now, screen direction wise, Sintel in this shot is looking from the left to the right. So it makes sense that she is looking like so. So in this shot, she should actually start sort of over here, you know. Set a keyframe on the same frame. And then, you know, it should be more horizontal too. Like so. You'll notice also that I haven't changed the focal length of either of these cameras. So why don't I go ahead and do that, because usually, you know, not everything should be shot with a 35mm lens. This one, let's make it either tighter, if you want to see the beautiful detail on the tomatoes, or wider. We can try both. I do a lot of experimentation. Let's try an 18mm lens. She's just soaking it all in. Wow, look at all of this selection. Now to sort of tweak the specifics of how the camera moves, I usually open up the graph editor, and start playing with curves. So you can change the timing, just have it start earlier. You can change how it eases in to a key, and you can even add noise modifiers, which I use greatly, for a handheld effect. So maybe we'll throw that onto one of our cameras. But anyway, now we have to see her hand going into frame and picking something up, say this basket. Now that starts to become a little more complex. How is that going to work? Is that going to work in this shot? I don't know. So let's sort of halfway through the camera's pan, let's key Sintel's hand. I'm going to add location rotation keyframe, go a few frames forward, and just find the second position. Now this kind of stuff usually requires a lot of cheating, so we'll see what makes sense. By the way, I would really encourage anyone who's interested in this kind of stuff to look at this video series called Hollywood Camera Work. It's a really amazing resource for cinematography for filmmakers. It doesn't even have to be 3D. Actually, it's geared more for live action, but all of the examples are done in 3D, sort of like what we're doing right now. So I'm just moving this controller beyond where she's actually able to go, so that I can also key her pelvis and root, so that she can move forward appropriately to let her get that close. So right now, obviously, there are some issues. We do not want to see this in our shot. But I'm going to show you a little trick that I've used several times. That is, going to select the camera. By the way, a fast, easy way to get the camera when you're like this and it's sort of embedded within a character, you can hit Control, right-click on the marker, and it will switch to it. Pretty cool. And I'm going to change the clip start. And as I just push that up, it's not actually seeing anything until, after Sintel's face. So it's a little bit stupid. This is not really the best way to shoot something, but it works for our case. Just going to keyframe this hand going down, and now you can see that it's really kind of like her point of view, which is pretty cool. Her hand is just coming in there. She's going to grab something. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to keyframe the basket and her hand. Instead of constraining it, which is what I normally do, and animating a constraint, normally I would be... Normally a hand would come in here, I'd animate the constraint from 0 to 1, and then I'd only still be animating the hand, but suddenly the second object would move with it. Instead I'll just put keyframes on both since it's easier. So putting a keyframe here, jumping forward 10 frames, going back to this hand, bringing it back, and since auto key is not on, I'm going to turn it on because I usually use it, but I have to hit I every time. And then I'm going to move the basket to sort of come along. And actually, since auto key is now on, I shouldn't have to hit I anymore. So this is really horrible example of a scene, but hopefully it's not completely invaluable. So it's going to not work at all. But I'm just going to scrub. Oh, look. Cucumbers. Hand comes in. She pulls them back. And how about I'm going to cut to a sort of a medium 2 shot. So you can see Prug on the left, Sintel on the right, just to follow this action. It's kind of good to cut on action. So I'm just going to add another camera, rotate it up, actually clear the rotation constraint on X just so that it doesn't get any wacky rotations around. I'm going to look through it with Control, Numpad 0, Control B. So now we're here. I'm going to bring it back a little with Shift F and then scroll wheel. I'm going to look at Prug as well. Okay, so he's pretty tall. We could cheat him down, but I'm just going to change the lens so it's more forgiving. One thing I do a lot is rotate around the empty. So if I know that basically I like this composition, but I need to be closer to Sintel, I can rotate like so. It does a sort of matrix thing, which is pretty sweet. I can push in a little. Look, isn't that nice? It's sort of a nice composition there. I'd be doing a lot of tweaking. But anyways, I like this, so we'll cut from this point of view to... Ha! Auto key was on. I do not want that animation, so I'm going to delete one of the keys. Do that a lot. Okay, so that sort of works. We'll pretend it does. And then finally he has to slap her, doesn't he? So, just going to animate. Well, add keys for all this. And then I'm going to have anticipation and the actual action. So anticipation. And it is really a bad habit to actually animate from the camera view. But why not? Gonna key all of his fingers, which means setting a key before in that previous, then keying again, rotating them up, spreading them out. Gonna bring him back. Wow, really deformed. And then bring that forward. Now, an issue is that Sintel is completely too far. And if this is actually written in the script, Prug slaps Sintel, we would have thought that there's actually a fruit stand separating them. But he can grow arms. Actually, just lean forward really far. Aha. So it's gonna work. Just have to cheat a little bit. Rotate here. And it's interesting because we probably only have to make this work in screen space. Although it's usually best not to cheat at all, you know, or as little as necessary. But as long as it looks right, that's all that matters. Now here he's actually making contact, so I actually have to cheat at all. And then just sort of follow through. So I'm gonna twist him around. Yeah. I'm gonna bring his hand over. And he's gonna look. You deserve that for picking those cucumbers. So now it's animated incredibly slowly. Let's put his head back where it needs to be. Perfect slap. You'd also have to animate Sintel's reaction. But, you know, there's a pretty quick way to establish a thought, or, you know, an action. Now we got to time it out. So right now, that's how fast it is, and it's definitely too slow. The actual arm moving through space. So I'm going to change the view to the dope sheet and look at Prug. And I'm going to look at only Prug by hitting the little cursor thing, selecting all. So these are all the channels of animation on Prug. Now it's this portion that is way too slow. So if I hit summary, I can just take, by clicking the top keyframes on this summary sort of sheet, it selects all the ones that appear on that frame, and all the channels. So, perfect. It's a lot snappier. So now, I'm just going to hide. Normally I would hit only render, but what we've done is we've turned renderability off on the proxy models, so that makes it harder to see. Okay, so the timing doesn't work for her actually taking away the basket of cucumbers. So again, in the dope sheet, I'm going to look at everything. We've got animation on several things. I'm going to unhide Sintel's rig so that she also shows up. And now this is something that happens very often. Usually I'm editing something in a sequence with multiple cameras. Camera animation, blocking, characters, constraints, a lot. This gets very complex very fast. One of the tools that helps me keep everything sort of synced up when I'm retiming things is to have the, where is it? Sync markers option checked. So that means that the camera switch will still happen at the same time. If I want to elongate the amount of time it takes Sintel to grab the cucumber basket, I can do so in the dope sheet and have it and sort of push the cut back with the action, which is really handy. So I can select all the keys before and in front of the playhead with Control right click. And in this case, I think it's all of these keys which need stretching. So just going to pull that back, and you can see how that is stretched. And now this, Sintel, there's so many little, yeah, I'll move these ones too. Perfect. Alright. So now let's watch. Ha! We've got a beautiful scene here. All I have to do is sort of animate Sintel real quick to go, ah! You know, and, you know, sort of a teary close-up, you know, what are you doing, why? You know, I was going to pay for these, kind of thing. But hopefully that's illustrative and sort of how you go about setting up a scene. My phone is ringing. Because I would basically just save this out, put that in edit, see how it works. If I'm pretty happy with the timing, I would save out individual animation files for each of these shots. So I'd put, since this starts here, start frame, end frame. Save this out with F2 as, you know, 3.1a. And that becomes a shot that gets animated. In this case, there'd be flies buzzing around, and the camera would then get animated a little bit better. Then I'd go on to the next shot, start and end, and this is oh, right, okay, so 3.1a would be this. Sintel looking around. So the animator would then have 29 frames to have Sintel, you know, actually acting, which is not what she's doing here. But it's a really cool, fun way to quickly make a movie without putting all the effort into the nuances of performance. And also, you know, it would be foolish to actually do that kind of thing because this is basically an experimental phase at its core. Is like, I'm going to try something out, an idea, see how the visual, the flow works, how, you know, the story is told, what ideas are being communicated, what's the right pacing, you know, what is the best way to shoot, you know, the scene. And obviously they have every shot decision that you make, every camera placement, there's probably something better out there. There has to be a reason why you cut to a wide shot versus, you know, a close-up on the other character, or, you know, a 3/4 view versus straight on. All these things. There's a lot of theory out there about cinematography. So I would go to that Hollywood Camera Work thing. There's also a really great book, Shot by Shot, Film Directing Shot by Shot, which has a really cool way of, talking about, composition. And one other thing I want to show you real quick is noise modifiers, because I thought they were pretty fun. So let's see this slapping shot right here. We want to make it really gritty, sort of Born Identity like. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to go into the graph editor and look at its channels. And usually, actually the most radical changes that you perceive in a camera's motion is rotation. When you think about it, this much rotation, like this much rotation, if this is a lens and you're looking, if you're looking really far, or sort of a tighter a focal length, this much difference will be perceived ginormously on screen. While if you push forward and you're zoomed in really far, it won't be as perceptible. Anyway, I feel like for the most part, noise modifiers work better for rotation channels than location. So I'm going to go into X rotation, which is this, and add Modifier Noise, and let's see what this does. Oh, a little bit much. So I'm going to reduce it. Let me expand so we actually can see what we're doing. Going to reduce. So that's the speed of the effect, and this is the intensity. So still way too much. Actually, most of my values in the second property were like the greatest was 0.02. So that's actually still pretty intense. Maybe not in this case. Haha. And this kind of stuff takes a lot of experimentation, and it's good to actually I kind of layer noise modifiers. So you've got like the jitter, and then you've got the overall motion. But for that, I feel like I generally would prefer to key that myself. So now I'm going to go to Y, do the same thing with noise. This is a really, you can really go overboard with this. And maybe there's some shots where I have, It's so fun to play with. Okay, so this is yaw. Alright, Z. Oh my god. Now I'm going to push forward. This needs a crash dolly. So, keyframe here, and then just going to push forward. Shift F. Oh my god. Ah. So here we go. We've got a beautiful shot to end the scene with a real smack to the face. It's going to make the audience, erupt in applause. I don't know. In fear, in shock. And they will love you forever. So, I probably should do a follow-up that's a little bit more based in reality, in terms of I could show the thought that went into a certain scene. I could break down a scene maybe. But yeah, let me know if you have questions or if you have requests on what exactly you would like to know about layout, for example. Anyway, I hope this was mildly amusing and entertaining. What's the word? Educational. And I'll see you soon.